All right, so this is section 12.3, Law of Cosine. We just got finished talking about the law of sines. Important to remember that the law of sines and the law of cosine can be used for any type of triangle, right? So here is the law of cosine. C squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c, where lowercase a, b, and c are side lengths, and capital C is the measure of the corresponding angle to side C. It is so important to remember that lowercase letters are side lengths and capital letters are angles. Now, in the law of cosine, if we look at it sort of in general terms, notice that we have a side length right there, side C, we would call it. And over here, we have angle C. This is a characteristic of the law of cosines. The side and the angle in those two positions must always correspond to one another. The other two sides go here, 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 and here. So what I'm really saying is that the law of cosine could be written multiple ways as long as you have things in the right spot. For example, we could say that we have side A out in front. That means the other two sides go in these positions. And we would finish the law of cosine with angle A because side A was in front. Or if we decided to put side B in front, and this all depends on, what we're trying to solve for and what we have. If side B went in front, then the other two sides would go in these positions, and we would finish the law of cosine with angle B. So again, I want to make this point very clear. The side that goes right here has to correspond to the angle that goes right here. Let's take a look at an example. It says find the missing side or angle. In this case, we're finding a missing side right there. Round all answers to the nearest centimeter or degree. We'll obviously round to the nearest centimeter since it's a side. Show all work. Okay, so let's do it. So since we have to find that side length, we're going to put that at the front of the law of cosine. So it's going to look like this. W squared equals the other two sides squared. So we know the other two sides, 41 and 36. So we'd have 41 squared plus 36 squared minus 2 times 41 times 36. And the angle that goes on the end of the law of cosine here has to be the angle that corresponds to the side that we're trying to find. So in that case, that would be the 49-degree angle, because that angle and that side correspond to one another. So we would say cosine of 49 degrees. So now to solve for W, we have to take the square root of both sides. The square root of W squared is W, and then we can plug all of this into the calculator to find out what W equals. So we have the square root of 41 squared plus 36 squared minus 2 times 41 times 36 times the cosine of 49 degrees. Close off the parentheses for the cosine of 49. Close off the parentheses for the square root. Hit enter, and there's our side length. 32.2, which they asked us to round to the nearest centimeter. So we'll say W is approximately 32 centimeters. All right, in our second example here, we are trying to find the measure of angle A. So angle A is right here. So that's going to be the angle in our law of cosine, right? There's only one position for an angle in the law of cosine. So we're going to end the law of cosine with the cosine of angle A. that means side A has to go out in front. Well, side A is the side opposite angle A. So the 42 squared has to start out the law of cosine. Now we put the other two sides in the other spots. So we have 34 squared plus 36 squared minus 2 times 34 times 36. Now we're ready to solve for angle A. Now we know that because we're finding an angle, eventually we're going to have to use the inverse cosine. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. First we have to get cosine of A by itself. Now, if you prefer to square all these numbers and multiply these three numbers together, by all means go ahead and do that. I don't prefer to do that. I'm going to keep it all as it is, and I'm going to solve for the cosine of A. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to subtract 34 squared to the other side. I'm going to subtract 36 squared to the other side. So let's do that. We'd have 42 squared minus 34 squared minus 36 squared equals negative 2 times 34 times 36 times the cosine of angle A. Everything right here is being multiplied together, so that's one term. Now I want to get the cosine of A by itself, so I have to undo the multiplication between the cosine of A and negative 2, 34, and 36. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2 times 34 times 36. And what that's going to do for me over on the right side of the equation is it's going to cancel out the negative 2, the 34, and the 36, leaving me with the cosine of angle A all by itself. And it's equaling everything you see over here on the left side. 42 squared minus 34 squared minus 36 squared all over negative 2 times 34 times 36. And if you wanted to take everything on this left side and square it and multiply it and divide it and get just one decimal number, that's perfectly fine to do. That's totally up to you. I'm going to choose not to. I don't see any reason to pick up the calculator more than I have to, so I'm just going to leave it as it is right now. So the only thing left to do now is get angle A by itself. We've solved for the cosine of angle A, but we want to solve for just angle A. And as I said before, we know that to undo the cosine, we take the inverse cosine. And whatever we do to one side, we have to do it to the other side. So the inverse cosine undoes the cosine, and that's what leaves us with angle A all by itself. And the inverse cosine of all of this, we can plug it right into our calculator to get our answer. Second cosine. Now, I have to group everything in the numerator together. So I do another parentheses, and then I do 42 squared minus 34 squared minus 36 squared. And I close off the numerator. Then I divide, and I have to group everything in the denominator together. So I have another parentheses, negative 2 times 34 times 36. Close off the denominator, close off the inverse cosine. There's my answer. The angle measures, they want us to round to the nearest degree, so 74 degrees.